friends. Welcome back to the Wild Rose podcast. I'm Whitney Rose.
I'm Connie Daniels.
And today we have such an incredible story to share with you, an important topic that we've talked about before on the podcast. If you heard our episode with the Family Support Center, we had Heidi Lund from the Life Start Village, and Connie and I actually had the privilege of raising some money for the Family Support Center, and this week I was able to go deliver the big check, like, you know, those big checks to the Family Support Center. So thank you to everyone who actually clicked on the link and donated during Giving Tuesday. We were able to match everything that everyone donated and keep the Family Support Center and Life Start Village in business. So we got to see Heidi. She's doing great, but it actually reminded us that we have someone very close to Connie who has a powerful addiction story. And I'll let Connie introduce her. But first, Connie, before we dive into that, I am so in my head about what happened last night. So can we talk about it?
Yes.
I need your help.
First of all, yes, we went to a comedy show here in Salt Lake City and a little place called Wise Guys, if everybody's heard of it.
Yeah, it's like a fun date night. Connie and I, we've done it before. We go have dinner, watch a comedy show.
Yeah, we haven't done it for a while. So we're like, let's go out. Comedian was hilarious, starting off really funny, but talking about all of the sort of sensitive taboo things that we've been going through with COVID and vaccines and abortion. He decided to bring up literally every topic that is can be very highly sensitive to some people, right?
Highly sensitive and highly controversial and highly volatile, but he definitely was coming from it from more of a just making fun of both sides of the arguments, right? Mm-hmm. And that there was some points I was cackling. Because I was when we were remembering the toilet paper shortage and things like that, I was cackling. Yeah. But then we're in Utah. It's conservative, and he's like, what haven't we, how did he say it?
He's like, what else can we talk about? Probably that's uncomfortable. He didn't say that, and then he's like, let's talk about abortion. And then all of a sudden, some people started making little comments.
Well, he goes, do we like abortion here in Utah? And people were like, no, right?
I think so.
Yeah, that's what happened. And all I could hear.
Well, somebody said that.
Yeah, someone said no. And we're in Utah, and Utah is becoming more and more progressive, but we're still a very conservative state. And when he was like, do we like abortion here? And some man said no. And for some reason, I just hyper-focused on that man. And I started listening to what he was saying. And
I didn't hear this man, but I did see Whitney stand up and start clapping and saying, yes, women's rights. Women's rights. And she couldn't contain it. And I was like, okay.
I lost control because I was so bothered. I'm usually pretty open-minded, and when people have different beliefs than I do, I just listen to them and I don't say anything. But for whatever reason, I stood up and I just started chanting women's rights and clapping. And the comedian pointed me out because we were third row. And he was like, someone's a little sensitive in the audience or something like that. And I was like, no, actually, I just have to pee. But yes, women's rights.
As she was about to stomp out of there, right?
Yeah,
you kind of stomped out of there, but you were like, no, I'm not leaving because I'm sensitive. I'm leaving because I have to go pee. But you were feeling a lot.
I was feeling a lot, and I was like, I'm leaving. And I told Justin, I was like, excuse me, I'm out of here. And the comedian kind of called me out, and then I was able to check myself for a minute. And I was like, no, I'm just peeing. I'll be right back. And then I was really embarrassed because obviously people know who I am. And Connie and I had taken photos with people, and our podcast was even brought up. And I was like, I'm just so embarrassed, Connie. Did I make an ass of myself?
And I told you no. you're like, maybe I'm just in my head, but I'm like, no, you felt something and you stood up and you said it. And, I think that there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there just isn't. Like,
did I embarrass you though?
No.
No?
I wasn't. I was like a little shocked because I wasn't expecting you to stand up and clap. And, but also like, I think it's okay. Like if it's okay for a comedian to like bring up these topics, it's okay to have reactions from people. Like they want reactions, and they don't get to pick what kind of reaction they get, but it's okay to react to things that make you feel a certain way. And I think that the way it was brought up was not very tasteful, or what you heard the audience saying was not very tasteful. And so you were responding, and that's all it was. You had a response to an emotion. It's okay. Like, it's okay. And, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for doing it. Like, you're owning your voice. You don't need to question it.
Well, I
think a lot of us do that sometimes, like in a moment, and question.
I went into the bathroom and I just like did a quick meditation, deep breath, zhuzhed my aura. And actually like 3 women followed me to the bathroom, and they were like, thank you. Like,
yeah.
Like that was really hard for us to hear too. And I was just like, I am mortified, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I feel like I was on the apology tour today of like, I just didn't want to embarrass my friends. I don't want to embarrass myself.
We weren't embarrassed.
But at the same time, like, yeah, I guess you stand up for what you believe in. And I didn't believe that this white male had the right to say that it should be wrong for a woman to make the choice of her body. And I know this is so controversial. We're not going to dive into that, but
yeah, that's maybe a different topic, different day.
But you don't think I should be in my head?
Just, all we brought this up for, I'm thinking is like you were in your head and kind of like questioning it, and I would say, yeah.
No, well, it was kind of like the wildest thing that happened to me this week. So
I think you shocked yourself. I think you shocked yourself because you just reacted really quickly, and then you were like, oh my gosh, should I have reacted like that? But like you didn't even think about it. You stood up, you said what you felt, and you walked away, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. Well,
and some people might have thought, oh my gosh, she's this crazy bitch, but it's fine. That's fine. That's not up to you.
But I do believe in women's rights. So.
Yeah. So.
But anyways, I just needed
to women's rights.
Yes. I needed to get that off my chest because today's topic is, very, very meaningful, and I wanted to make sure that I can be very present for our guests. So do you want to introduce our? Who's coming on today?
So today is somebody near and dear to my heart. It is my cousin, and her name is Stephanie Noble. She's a life coach, and she also works at a treatment facility for addiction and recovery. So I'm really excited to share her with you, Whitney, and with the rest of the world, because her story is very powerful, and I think a lot of people can relate on a lot of levels to what she went through and how she turned her weakness and trial into her strength and her power. And so, when we come back, you'll get to meet Stephanie.
Amazing.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back from the break. I have a very, very special guest to introduce you today. Somebody who is very beautiful, funny, smart. She is somebody I look up to in so many ways. I'm so proud of her in her life for what she's overcome. She's overcome something, and I'm sure does every day, wakes up and overcomes again and again, but addiction in her life. And not only has overcome it, but has used it as a strength and a building block to stand on and change. Not only she's changed herself, but not only herself, she's changing people's lives from her experience. And so we want to share with you Stephanie Noble.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be
welcome,
here.
Stephanie. I have to say, you're one of the most stunning women I've been around and seen in a long time, like ever.
Oh my gosh, get out of here. I was so nervous coming because I'm like, oh my gosh, next to you guys.
Well, and you know I'm obsessed with skin, and you have the most beautiful skin. You just are glowing.
Well, I just got new Wild Rose Beauty products, so that's why.
That's why.
Yeah, but thank you for coming and taking
Yes.
the time. I know you're busy with all of your coaching and everything that you do, but Connie has told me so many amazing stories about you, so we're excited to have you on today.
Yes, I'm so excited too. Connie kept saying, I can't wait for you to meet Whitney. I can't wait for you to meet Whitney. You guys are going to love each other. So I'm happy to finally be here in the room.
Yes, I don't see you enough. Even though we're cousins, we don't see each other enough. So, but yes, your story is so inspiring, not only to me, but anybody who hears it. And so that's why I felt it was really important to get you on here so that more people can hear it, because I think that your story gives people so much hope that if they aren't dealing with their own addiction struggles, that I'm sure they know somebody or somebody close to them who is struggling with that. And that it's possible to shift and to change something that might feel very impossible
Yes.
at times.
When you're in it, it feels absolutely impossible, like this never-ending pit of misery, which it is. But being on the other side, it's easy now to be like, hey, there's a way out. Hey, there's a way out, because I'm on the other side of it. So, and you know, in recovery communities and things like that, they say you keep what you have by giving it away. So by helping other people and giving them, you know, hope that, hey, if I can do this, and you'll hear my story and see like how bad it got, that if I can do it, anyone can do it. And that's what I like to spend my time doing now, is telling everyone they can do it too.
That's so beautiful. So, tell me, I don't know your story. So, you and Connie, were you raised together? Start from the beginning.
Okay. Yeah, let's go way back. Let's go way back.
Yeah, it's I want to hear it all.
Yeah. So, okay, I'll just share my whole story. I mean, raised together, our dads are brothers.
Okay.
There's a little bit of an age gap with us, but Connie has always been someone in my life, someone I've looked up to. And then later on in my party years, we partied. She did not party at the level I did because I am an addict, but she's always been someone in my life. So
I used to babysit her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because my dad's the oldest and her dad's the youngest.
Okay.
Of the boys.
Yeah. So
Of 8 kids.
Connie's always been in my life in some capacity or another. So I'm very lucky for that.
So am I.
But so I was born and raised in Utah. I grew up in Holiday, and some of the significant things that I think led to my later on addiction, besides the genetic predisposition to it, my parents got divorced when I was 5. That was really hard on me. Looking back, I'm like, ooh, that was one of those pivotal moments where my little 5-year-old brain couldn't make sense of why that was happening. And so, of course, as a 5-year-old, I'm like, this is about me. He left because of me. It has to be. And the way that I internalized that was, okay, so in order for no one to ever leave you again, make sure you're perfect. And I took on this hero child role of 4.0 student, and I was funny and always making people laugh, and I felt like I had to become this certain person so that no one would ever leave me again. I mean, just that 30-second clip, that took me 10 years of therapy.
That's
but we're
so
here.
profound though. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so that was one of the big pivotal moments. I mean, I've had traumas since then, and obviously going through addiction at the level I was at was also a very traumatic experience. But the divorce when my parents were 5, the divorce when I was 5 was one of the big things. So growing up, I was just happy, and my parents had their own thing. You know, in Utah, people have kids at such a young age, and they had all of us at such a young age. I mean, 3 of us, but and so they had their own things, which I don't really care to go into, but it did play a role in my life, right? We moved a lot. It wasn't the most stable of homes to grow up in, but yeah. So growing up, I was happy. I was loved, and we have a big family that always got together on Christmas and Thanksgiving, and my
in the
Bear Lake
summertime.
every summer, and my grandparents were such a big role in my life as well. And then in high school, I really didn't want to drink and party. And I had seen my friends doing it, and I still like held out, like, no, I don't want to do that. And then one day I decided to, and I drank alcohol for the first time when I was 16 years old. Looking back, I'm like, holy shit, I was an alcoholic from the very first time I ever drank.
Really?
Yeah. So
and what do you mean by that? Like, how could you tell?
So I took a shot of Bacardi-O. That was my first shot. Ugh, disgusting. And kept drinking that night, drank a lot, mixed liquors, things like that. Woke up the next morning at my friend's house, and I felt like shit. And the first thought I had was, I can't wait to do that again. And something about, like, me feeling sick and me, like, it wasn't the most enjoyable experience, but what it did was it quieted the voices in my head that I've had since I was 5 that said, you better be perfect. You better be this, like, hilarious, funny, smart 4.0 soccer player. When I drank, it just was like, whew, those voices went away.
It just
and I felt
everything.
I felt some type of relief that I hadn't felt before. And so, of course, I was drawn to, when do I get to feel like this again? And so I drank and partied in high school. When I was a junior, I lost my grandma to cancer, which was really hard. And then a week later, Connie and our grandpa died suddenly. So I lost half my grandparents in 1 week when I was 17, which was a pretty intense, traumatic week of my life. And I think the partying just got worse from there. And so smoking weed, drinking, but graduate high school, do all these things, right? And then I got injured and I was prescribed OxyContin.
Wait, let's back up. Where did you get injured at?
I injured my knee, and I played soccer my whole life, and I had injuries and stuff. And I was even prescribed painkillers when I got my wisdom teeth out in high school, and it never really, I took them as prescribed and threw them away and whatever. But when I got injured when I was 21.
So it was her 21st birthday. Mm-hmm. She was celebrating at our nightclub that we owned downtown. And you sprained your knee or something? Like you were, what were you doing?
I stepped off the stage because there weren't stairs, and I should have looked. There were not stairs. And I stepped off the side, and that's when I hurt my ankle. So then, even then, I got more painkillers. And my best friend at the time, she got injured that same night at my 21st birthday party. So she was like my best friend at the time. And so I shared my pills with her, which then you run out quicker. And then we were able to find them from quote unquote friends.
Okay.
Because it was a big thing. Like I went to Olympus, okay? And Olympus is a good school with, but it's also like rich, bored kids who are also doing a lot of pills. At the time I was there.
And back then they were very accessible. Mm-hmm. Like they're getting harder and harder to find now. And as this opioid crisis has developed but back then, I mean, this is how many years ago?
This was 2007.
Did you graduate? What year did you graduate?
2005.
Yeah, so we're the same age. Yeah. I graduated in 2005, and I went to Lone Peak.
Okay.
And I didn't party in high school, and I was kind of oblivious to it. Mm-hmm. But now that I drink, now that I go out, and I'm no longer LDS, so many people have told me, they're like, oh yeah, when we were hanging out with you, we were high and drunk. And I had no idea.
Yeah.
Like, just no idea.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure so many of my, LDS friends at the time just were like, had no idea.
So it's similar, like rich kids
And again, like Connie said, it was so much more accessible back then, right? They were just like, especially with OxyContin, they were just like, oh, this is the holy grail. You can't get addicted to this. And if you haven't seen Dope Sick on Hulu, go watch it. It kind of goes into the whole history of it, which is terrifying.
It is. And I watched Dope Sick on Hulu. And I called Stephanie right after it was done because it's so well done as far as like the history of how OxyContin came about and watching people go through like full on like addiction, but also trying to recover from it. I just had so much more like empathy for what you had gone through because just watching that made it even more real to me. Mm-hmm. And so, first thing I did, I'm like, Stephanie, oh my gosh. I'm like, I was already proud of you because it's been how many years since you've been sober?
Almost 7.5.
Almost 7.5. Yeah. And so I was just like, Stephanie, I need to tell you one more time, like, you're amazing because I can't imagine. So
Yeah.
anyway, go on.
Well, and just seeing all the corruption that goes on behind with pharmaceutical companies, lobbyists, legislators, the FDA, it's heartbreaking. But I mean, and now we're here, so there's not much I can do about it, but it truly is like heartbreaking.
But it wasn't until you're 21 when it became a problem.
Yep. 21 is when I was prescribed them, started taking them, shared with my friend, and then our friends were like, hey, we have Oxy 80s. And then that
80s.
Yeah. Oh, I got up to doing, I mean, not to like war story or anything, but I was taking what would probably, I mean, if I took a third of what I was taking back then, I would be dead today.
Wow.
I was taking up to 10 Oxy 80s a day. Like it was so bad. So my best friend and I at the time, we get really into Oxy, and, you know, we had friends who went to Olympus and older friends and stuff like that, and got really bad with Oxy. Then they started to get way more expensive. They started to change the formula so that you couldn't break them down and snort them, which is what I had been doing. And one day I was just really sick because the withdrawals from opiates, it's not something that I would ever wish upon anyone. It is horrifying. You feel like you are going to die. You won't. The only drugs you can die coming off of is alcohol and benzos, but opiates, you truly feel like you're going to die coming off of them. You are sweating, you are shaking, you cannot sleep, and the worst part about it, all the physical symptoms are one thing, but the mental prison and the mental mind fuck it is, because you know exactly what can fix it. You just get one more pill and you'll feel better. You really feel like you will die. So someone close to me at the time introduced me and was like, hey, well, you're going to have to do heroin. And I was just like, I remember having this thought of just like, there's really no turning back after this. Like, I could still live in my denial of like, I got hurt and I was prescribed these, right? And you can still kind of hang your hat on that for a while. Heroin takes it to this level where it's like, bitch, there is no denial left. Like, you do this and you're like in it. You're really in this big time. But I was desperate. I was so sick. Again, the withdrawals will.
And how many days like were you going through these withdrawals? Like, what was the time frame of that? Like when you ran out to when you did heroin?
Oh, it was not even a day.
Oh, wow.
So it's that bad.
Yeah. So it's like, it's just this constant rat race of using to feel normal, quote unquote, normal, whatever that is. It becomes this thing where you just are using not to get withdrawals. It's not like I was in this constant state of euphoric high all the time. It was just, you have to keep using because if you feel the withdrawals, oh man. So it just becomes that rat race of.
So it's kind of like the concept of the hair of the dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting that I've actually never heard anybody explain it like that, because I always thought that like if you were taking them, you felt high, but it can get to a point where you're literally just trying to not have withdrawals.
Yeah. Yeah. And it would, and they always say like you're always chasing that first high, or it really is like it's just so insane to even think about it now. When I explain things, I'm like, what? This makes no sense. But at the time when you're in it, your brain is not functioning correctly, right? Amygdala is taken over, prefrontal cortex is asleep. You literally have no concept of like self-awareness, decision-making, your morals, your personality. None of that is in play. So you are just in like the lizard brain of use. Don't get sick, don't get sick, don't get sick, and do whatever it takes to make sure that happens. Do whatever it takes to make sure this continues. So I do heroin that day, and I was like, holy shit, this is so much cheaper, and you actually do get a high at first. Very quickly that ran out, and it became the same exact story of I wasn't high anymore, I was just trying not to get sick. So did heroin with people that were very close to me, and that kind of became the thing for a while. And then in 2010, I went to detox. And this was not like some fancy medically, like they gave me Xanax to come down on, or like it was not a comfortable detox facility. It was like this co-ed place for basically homeless people. But I didn't have the resources. I didn't know there were resources to go somewhere else. And so I went to this detox center, and it was hell.
Did you choose to do that on your own? Mm-hmm. So you just had like realized this is enough, I'm done.
Yeah. And And you mean it, right? Every time someone says they want to quit, I believe them with every ounce of my soul. And I see so many people relapse and come back. And every time I work with people, I believe them with every fiber of my being when they say they want to quit, because I know they do. No one is like choosing every day to be the complete disappointment to themselves and their family, society. No one's waking up and being like, how can I be the biggest waste of potential? Because no one wants that for themselves. So anytime, and I really did want to quit. And then I met someone in detox. So that, I mean, we already know where this is going. And if anyone's listening who thinks they found their soulmate in detox or rehab, you didn't. You didn't. It's so bad. Please run. Don't get in relationships in early recovery. So I meet this guy, and he's a dealer. And he was there to get clean off opiates too, but he was also a dealer. And he gets out before me, and we had exchanged numbers. I get out, and then all of a sudden I find out he's back and doing it and dealing. And I was like, okay. And very quickly, I don't even think it was like days before he and I got together. And then that started like a year-long mess. That made it way worse, because at the time leading up to that, I was I was smoking heroin, thinking, again, this is what I'm doing to prevent myself from getting sick. He was shooting it up. And even as we were together, it was, I'm smoking it, he's shooting it up. And that was like the next line of like, no, I'm never going to shoot up. Just like I had said, I would never do heroin, right? Like, I'm never going to do that. You always have these like standards you put on yourself that truly like make you think like you're not in it. So, and then one day
my dad always told me those are the lies we tell ourselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's wild that you believe them, and we believe them. So I believed my own lies all the time. So then one day I was like, I want to try shooting it up. I don't know what prompted that. I don't know if it was just like seeing that he looked more high than me, whatever. And being the gentleman he was like, okay. Well, I think he like was like, no, you shouldn't. And that lasted like half a second. And then it was, and no blame to him, right? He was in his sickness. And when you find someone else just as sick as you, you're like, oh, we're in this together. And you feel this like fake connection.
It's like a trauma bond, really.
Yeah. And so then, and that was like the next thing. So then I was an IV heroin user and overdosed. One time he said I had turned blue. Like he had.
So he was with you.
Mm-hmm.
When that
Thank
happened.
God.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do it myself, so he would do it. And I overdosed one day as he turned around to like do his own thing. And he said he turned around and I was blue.
So what did he do?
And he lifted, I don't know, because I was not
coherent.
Yeah. So he had said that he just lifted me up and then I coughed and just came to again. So, and these are things, and my mom is going to just be heartbroken when she sees this. So maybe we'll not send her the link. But,
well, yeah, no one wants to think of their own child in that state of being like, it's scary.
Terrifying. Yeah. And so many people that die from this every single day, and it's, and I try, and sometimes I go down like the rabbit hole of like, why didn't I? And then I just am like, who cares? You're here. What can we do with it? Because if I go down the why rabbit hole, it gets I'm like, why me? When we lose so many people, but.
It's like that survival, what do they call that? Yeah, like survival guilt. Survival guilt, yeah.
Especially because I've lost so many friends and people that I love from this disease that it's just, So he and I have this relationship, whatever, and then that dissolves itself and I go to treatment. So I go to House of Hope, and the first time I was there for 5.5 months. And again, I wanted it. I wanted to be sober. I wanted to change my life. I knew I had so much potential that was just being wasted. And so that was in 2012, September of 2012, and then I got out, and I did day treatment, I did IOP, I did like the whole program. I think I had a year sober. Wow. And then after I graduated the whole program, I was like, oh my gosh, we need to celebrate. And I celebrated by drinking. And my justification at that point was, at least you're not doing heroin. At least you're not doing pills. Drinking was never a quote unquote problem for me, right? Drinking was never got me as bad as the pills. And throughout this too, there was Xanax prescriptions and all those kind of things too. But opiates were like my drug of choice. So I celebrated by drinking and thinking that I could control it. And I hear so many addicts say this, right? That, oh, alcohol isn't a problem. I'm like, watch it become one real quick. Because it doesn't matter what substance it is. My brain just does not use normally. I have the neural pathway of addiction. Yes, it can be healed. Yes, you can create new ones. But it is always there. That's why this is a disease. Mm-hmm. And if I wake it back up, it remembers very quickly. And it's a progressive disease, so it picks up where it left off, if not worse. So even though I had a year sober and I drank, that neural pathway is woken right back up, and it's just as bad, if not worse. And the cravings come back, and the obsession comes back, and just all of the lifestyle shitty choices that come along with it. And then in May of 2013, we lose Anthony.
Mm-hmm. My brother.
And that, I think, another traumatic thing in our lives, obviously. And I remember my dad calling me to tell me, and I didn't believe it. I was like, this isn't real. This isn't real. He's okay. He's okay. Mm-hmm. Just in this state of complete shock. And then I went to drink it away. Because, like, you know, when I have very heavy emotions, I don't know what to do with them, but my brain goes, do you know what's worked before? Drugs and alcohol. Mm-hmm. Because according to, like, the chemical situation in my brain, it does work. It is a solution, right? Floods of dopamine. My brain's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Let's remember this. But it really doesn't work that way. So I drank that whole summer. And so I got out of treatment in May. Anthony died in May. That whole summer was just a shit show of partying, going to EDC, party drugs. Still not on heroin, though, so I was still thinking it was okay. And then September hits, and I get my first DUI. And I was just like, oh my gosh, you're in some big trouble now. But the court system is slow, and I wasn't seeing any consequences from it, and so I kept doing it. Especially because I was so nervous and scared that I was like, what do I do when I'm nervous and scared? I drink. Yeah. So that continued. I had started a new job that December that kind of like got my shit together for a second, but that job was very toxic, and who I was working for was very toxic. So again, let's use over this because it's high stress and this and that. So the following April 2014, I get my second DUI. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really bad. And I get my car out of impound. Again, I'm not seeing any legal consequences, not even from the first one from 8 months prior in September. And I get the second one. 2 weeks later, I get my third. I know. For those listening, their faces are really...
I'm looking at it more of like the universe is like trying to tell you, like...
Yeah, I look at it now, and that's exactly it, where my higher power, the universe, whatever you want to call it, we say higher power.
Higher power, yeah.
That it was like trying to stop me. It was like, please stop, please stop, please stop. I mean, luckily I never hurt anyone. I never got in any accidents, and I'm so against drunk driving. I know so many people die that way, and it's truly heartbreaking. And I literally thank my higher power every single day that I never hurt anyone, because it is terrifying. So I get my third, and then the legal consequences are starting to show up. So I got an ankle monitor that would test my skin for alcohol. I had to wear that for a year. So that kind of kept me in line with the alcohol, but then I was like, well, it's not testing for Xanax. So then I go back to the Xanax, the Valium prescriptions, and I was just going to doctors, and I know exactly what to say. They're also given out very easily, which is terrifying. So
yeah, I mean, those are prescribed very commonly.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
you have anxiety, here you go.
Yeah.
Can't sleep, here you go.
All the quick fixes, right?
Yeah. Because it works.
Yeah, it does work.
But you are not supposed to be on them long term, and you are not supposed to take a full month's worth in 3 days like I was. It was like 90 Xanax pills in 3 days I was doing. Wow. Losing days of my life. Like I would wake up
just
and be
numb
like...
you completely out? And
yeah, would you be awake? You'd stay awake with all of that.
Yeah. Driving, doing normal day-to-day things, and then I would wake up and be like, how is it Saturday? And then I was like, oh, I got my prescription on Wednesday.
Wow.
truly just, it baffles me.
That's fascinating that you were still functioning though, like still like showing up to work. You weren't like passed out asleep.
Yeah. I mean, functioning is a relative word.
Right. But I mean, like you were awake and like doing probably.
And you can hold conversations and you can like,
Because like my experience with Xanax is I'm like,
yeah,
like zonked out, right? If I take
But I
it.
have a whole history of building up such a tolerance to those types of things with the heroin, the oxy, and using benzos throughout my career my user career.
Yeah, no, that's what my family members struggled with. And I feel comfortable saying it because my dad shared it on Housewives.
Yeah.
But Xanax and opioids were his big thing too. Like, and he said the Xanax was actually harder for him than the painkillers.
Oh, yeah.
To get off of.
Oh, yeah. Benzos are very dangerous to come off of just on your own. If you build up a tolerance and you're using them every single day because they're a central nervous system depressant, when you take them away, you can stroke out, you can have seizures, you can have heart attacks, you can die only from withdrawals from alcohol and benzos. Two of the legal ones.
To all the legal ones. The ones you can buy at the store.
So for an example of a benzo, you're saying like a Xanax is a benzo.
Valium, Xanax, Ativan, those kind of things. And so coming off of them is very dangerous if you're just trying to do it by yourself. And like I said, opiates, you just feel like you're going to die, but you're not.
Right.
You will not die from opiate withdrawal.
From alcohol.
But from alcohol.
Benzos.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
So if anyone's needing help with those, please seek out medical help for those because it is not something to mess around with on your own.
I remember the first time I learned that that you could die from coming off of alcohol. And I was just blown away because I thought, alcohol, you can just buy it at the store. But you can die if you drink too much and just...
Yeah.
And stop.
I remember because I can't think of what the support program's called, but when my dad was in sober living and rehab, I went to the family program.
Oh, yeah, Al-Anon.
Yes, Al-Anon. And that's when I learned about the alcohol. Like, you don't just stop. You have to, like... so my dad was in detox. They were, like, really grilling him. Are you sure you don't drink? Because they have to... They'll give you like 16 beers, then the next day 15, then the next day 14, right? Like,
well, I mean, that's what they would say to do if someone was trying to do it on their own. If you're in a facility coming off of alcohol, they'll give Librium, Ativan, benzos to get you off of alcohol, and then a taper from the benzos. Because so many people die this way, but they don't know that it's alcohol withdrawal because they say, "Oh, he had a stroke. Oh, he had a heart attack," not knowing he was in alcohol withdrawal. So the numbers aren't even as accurate as I think they are. I mean, the opiate epidemic is the number one, right? But so many people die.
Well, as a resident wino, that I'm like sitting here like, I'm like wide-eyed, like,
yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously because of my dad and my family history, I pay really close attention to like how much I'm drinking and all that, but it is, I like forget that that's the thing that you can actually die from.
Yeah.
Is the thing that I buy.
It's so socially acceptable.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it just seems like, oh, it's easy. It's fine. It's fine. Not everyone, but lots of people do that.
But I think that's why like you sharing your story, it's like a really powerful reminder, even to people who maybe don't have like, they don't think they have like the predisposition or a problem, but like, it's a great reminder.
Yeah.
Because especially after the pandemic, I think everyone just started drinking.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because there's nothing else to do.
How did you get through the pandemic? Like, because you were
chilling.
I
was chilling.
And just a lot of meditation. A lot of like, what?
I mean, we took our groups online for a while, which was hard because it was like, you know, as an addict, I was even like, damn, this is going to be a perfect excuse for people. So when I was doing my groups online and they were like, I can't come in to drug test, Stephanie, I'm sick. I couldn't say, no, you have to come in. And so my addict brain was like, oh, shit, this is the perfect excuse because I couldn't make them come in if they felt sick.
Right.
So drinking went up hugely in the pandemic. I remember driving by the liquor store once during the pandemic and the line, I was like, oh my gosh. And then you saw these people like, why is the liquor store essential? I'm like, because people will die if they don't drink. Every single day drinkers, like we were just talking about, it is essential, because if all of a sudden they couldn't get their liquor, they could all just die in their homes.
I never thought of that.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we talked about what you do for work now.
Oh, okay.
We didn't actually clarify that.
Let's go back to rabbit squirrels.
Yeah.
But so go back to you.
Wait, should we take a really quick break right now, and then when we come back, I want you to share with us what you do for a living now,
But
and
I also want to
how you got into that.
I want to hear the rest of the story too. So after the break,
I know.
There's still more. It gets worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
It gets worse.
Well, let's pause for the break. And then when we get back from the break,
we'll be right back.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone. We are in the middle of Stephanie's story.
We're closing to the end. Jeez.
But I did want people to know really quickly, what you do for work. And then we do want to hear, the rest of the story.
Yeah. So I'm a substance use disorder counselor. So I counsel people who are in an intensive outpatient facility in Sandy. So that's what I do. So I get to just help them as they help themselves. And I think my story helps, because when they think I don't get it, I'm like, I get it. I've been there. I can do this with you. You can do this. So it provides a good backing, I guess, that I know what I'm talking about.
For sure.
But
do you do some life coaching on your own too?
Yeah. So I do life coaching and some sober coaching. I'm just very, very picky about who I take, because a lot of people will come to me and be like, I'm drinking every single day. I want your help. And I truly, truly believe in treatment. I believe in medical detox. I believe in getting the proper help for it. So I don't think that I just can coach someone into getting sober. If someone already has some sober time, or if they're not, I call us pickles. If they're, you guys are cucumbers, I'm a pickle, because I can never turn back into a cucumber or a normal drinker again. So if you're a cucumber and you're wanting to look at your relationship with alcohol and stuff like that, then I do coaching as well. And then my little journals. But my main job is as a substance use disorder counselor. So,
okay, we're going to put all of your information, how to get a hold of you, in
the show notes.
We'll put all of that in the description. But we'll get to that at the end. But I want to hear the rest of the story.
Yes. Okay. So
sorry, Connie has ADD really bad today.
So I got the third DUI, the ankle monitor. Then I went to pills again. And this is 2015. And so I was doing pills, and then I found a friend who had Oxy again. So I was still in this place of, now it wasn't just now I still used that same excuse of, at least you're not doing heroin. At least you're not back to shooting heroin, right? Mm-hmm. Pills, and that they're like pharmaceuticals. And this was back before everything was cut with fentanyl. Nowadays, don't trust any freaking pill you get on the street. No way, shape, or form. They all have fentanyl in them. So this was before that, thank God. If I didn't get clean and sober before the fentanyl epidemic, I would be dead for sure. No doubt in my mind. So then I'm doing pills again, finding some clean time in between, just because, and I still was waiting to be sentenced on all of my DUIs. So I still knew it was coming, and I was like, I am so in trouble, right? And then again, the stress of that led me to use more. And then I did go back to heroin, because the pills were getting too expensive. So I go back to heroin, I find some clean time. And then now we're in August of 2015, and I was sober for quite some time. I went to IOP. I was in IOP at a treatment facility called Lighthouse, which is my favorite place in the whole world, but they closed down. And then August of 2015, I relapsed again. So this is my last relapse. And it was 4 days. So I smoked heroin for 2 days, tried not using for the third day. Used it on the third day because of the withdrawals. Fourth day, I was withdrawing. I go and meet my dealer. He says, be careful, this is really strong stuff. And that does not matter to me. You just think, cool, almost. Like, good, this is good stuff I'm getting. So I go in the Dan's parking lot up on Foothill and in that like underground parking thing, and I park my car and I shoot up and I'm out. And this is the last time I ever used. And someone must have seen me, thank God, and called the cops to come do a wellness check on me. And the next thing I know, so I had overdosed in my car, and the cops came and woke me up somehow. And when I came to and like realized it, I was like, oh my gosh, because I was in my car. So I knew it was a 4th DUI because I had control of the vehicle. And I had interlock in my car at the time. So I have a breathalyzer in my car because alcohol,
Okay.
right? But I'm using heroin in my car.
Is
and
that
I
the thing
overdosed.
you blow into to start your
Yeah.
car? Okay.
And so that's the last time I used. But I get woken up and everything's happening very quickly. And I'm still just so like, what just happened? And I remember thinking, damn it, you should have done all of it. Like, you should have just done all of it so you could just be done with this, you know? And I'm really glad I didn't. So after all of this, I get taken to jail. And I am like, okay, I thought it was bad. The first one, the second one, the third one. This is the 4th one. I was like, holy shit, there's no getting out of this. Like, this was like I had always found a shovel when I got to rock bottom to just dig and find another bottom and find another bottom. This one I was like, there's nothing else after this. Like, you are so fucked. Excuse my language.
We will.
And so I'm in a jail cell, and I get that gift of desperation where I was just like, this is really bad. Like, what am I going to do? And something happened to me while I was there, and it was like a switch was flipped. Like, God, my higher power, the universe, I don't even care to name it. I don't know what it was. Something came down and removed it. And I know that sounds so crazy, like, but something happened. And since that day, I have not had one craving. And I was withdrawing, right? Because I had overdosed, and then now I'm in jail, and I was withdrawing. And after this happened, my withdrawals went away. And something, and it's, you know, those spiritual awakening, the burning bush moment, the psychic change. I had the psychic change, and it was big, and it was like undeniable. And since that day, I've been clean and sober. It gave me this gift of like, okay, Stephanie, whatever it takes, you're going to get sober, whatever it takes. And I was even resolved to the fact, like, bitch, you got 4 DUIs, you're going to prison, right? Like, for sure. So I was like, okay, and you're going to go to prison, and you're going to get through it, but at least your mom's not going to get a phone call that you died in a parking lot. Because that's what was going to happen, right? After 4 days of using, I almost died. The progressive nature of this disease, right? No matter how much clean time you have, you pick up again, and it's like, it's on. And it's right back to where you left off. So even today, sitting here, I'm almost 7.5 years sober. I know if I were to go back out and use, I will die. Maybe not the first day, but damn close, since the last one was 4 days. Like, I know for a fact, if I use or drink again, I will lose the battle to this disease, and I refuse to let that happen. So Did you go
to rehab after you got out of jail?
Yeah.
Or was it just done?
No, I still went. Okay. And I went because, so after that was August, and I got out, and I instantly called House of Hope because I was an alumni there. And I was like, I'm in big trouble, right? Like, and even though I had the spiritual awakening, I had no cravings. I was like in it, like, let's do whatever it takes. I knew that House of Hope was safe. I knew that I still had things to learn about how to keep myself from going back, because I was like, I'm not going to let this go to waste. Like, you hear about these stories in the big book, and you hear about the Alcoholics Anonymous book, not like the Bible.
Okay.
But
that's a form of a Bible.
Yeah. But you hear about these moments that people get, and I was always just like, there's no way. Like, they were high, they're lying, like, and so I just was like, don't let this go to waste. Don't let this go to waste, because for some reason you got one of the big ones. Mm-hmm. And so I went back to treatment. I did 2.5 months residential. I went back to my IOP at Lighthouse for months. They had to kick me out eventually. They were like, Stephanie, you need to leave. Like, you've been here too long. And then the following March, the court stuff came. So I was 7 months sober at the time, and I go to court, and my probation officer at the time had been like really great and had seen that I was doing everything I needed to be doing. And this was just for the third DUI. And he was like, okay, I'm going to recommend home confinement, which I was like, oh my gosh, a miracle of recovery, right? So I go to court, and the probation officer had put in the recommendation of home confinement. The judge was like, bitch, no way. Like, she was like, third DUI, home confinement, no way. And there's a minimum mandatory of 62 and a half days. So she was like, you're going to jail for 62 and a half days. And so the bailiff comes up and handcuffs me, and I'm just like, okay. And I was still free. And that's how I knew, like, that recovery is the ultimate freedom of my life. That I was in handcuffs getting ready to be taken to jail, and I was like, let's go. Like, I'm free. This is fine. Like, I can overcome this because I'm sober. So then when I was in jail, I had court dates for the probation violations. So I go in front of the judge, and the prosecutor is saying, I want 6 months for the first violation, 6 months for the second, to be served consecutively. So I was looking at a year. I thought I was in for 62 and a half days, and then I go shackled, like scooting into court, and I'm like, oh shit. So I wrote a letter to the judge, and I handed it to my attorney, and I was like, hey, give this to the judge. And he was like, I can't just give this to the judge. You have to read it. And I was like, oh, okay. So I read this letter just saying everything I've been doing. And I said, if jail fixed what I have, I would beg for it. But jail doesn't fix addiction. Jail does not fix this for me. Treatment fixes this for me. Connection fixes this for me. Meditation, mindfulness, a connection to my higher power, my spirituality. Sitting me in jail for a year won't do anything. And he agreed. And he said, you're right. Putting her away in jail for a year is a recipe for relapse.
Right.
So he closed all my stuff.
Wow.
And let me go.
So that was your second big gift.
Mm-hmm. And my fourth DUI was dropped. And I've even like thought of like calling my attorney to be like, how? Mm-hmm. How? And I don't want to know.
That doesn't really happen, does it? Like, they don't just drop.
A fourth? No. And that's, again, a miracle of recovery where I was like, I don't know how that happened. And I remember him having me sign. I got possession, obviously, because I was caught with a needle in my arm. But I remember him saying, like, sign this paper, Stephanie, because the fourth DUI is being dropped. And I was just like, what?
Wow.
But, we have this saying in recovery of, like, happiness and these miracles happen by way of just staying clean and sober. That every day I stay clean and sober, my life just unfolds in this divinely guided way that I can't explain, nor do I want to. But hearing, if you were to go say, like, hey, this person got 4 DUIs and didn't go to prison, I ended up doing 13 days in jail for that 62. And got out on ankle monitor, like these miracles that just happen over and over again. Like I don't credit myself. I'm the one who got myself into the mess. Something else happened where it got me out. So it got all better from there.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just like hearing you say that, it just makes me like, because I truly believe that going back to that like 5-year-old girl, mm-hmm. like your higher power took you back to that moment because you did this yourself. You were given a gift and it aligned with your higher power, but your courage and your strength is what got you. Like hearing you talk about this, it's like, no, you did that. You are so strong and so courageous. And it's like the more like I'm hearing you talk, I'm like, your inner child came and saved you.
Oh, I love that.
Through your higher power, right?
I actually did a meditation with my mentor about the 5-year-old version of me, and she was like stuck in this like encasing, and it was like brick walls around her, and I had to like fight my way out, and it was one of the most powerful guided meditations I've done. So you saying that, I'm like, oh my gosh. Yes. And she was fierce at 5, right? You babysat me. I was a feisty.
Oh, she did whatever she wanted.
Yeah. So then since then, life just is magic. And like I said, I have thoughts of using and drinking, but they're so fleeting, and I laugh at them and I bow because this disease is cunning, baffling, powerful. And so I make sure I respect it because I'm not stronger than the disease, but my recovery can be. And I went back to school. I got into the University of Utah to go to their school of social work, became a substance use disorder counselor, left the corporate BS behind, and now I work at a treatment center, so I get to help people as they do the same thing I did. And we keep what we have by giving it away, so I try and give it away as often as possible. And so even though I was so nervous to come and share my story, because it's pretty gruesome and it's pretty heartbreaking, but it's also just the reality of it. And if I can help someone by saying like, hey, it happened to me and you can be 7 years sober or you can find a different way to live, like I want to do that. So I share not for me, but for the addict still suffering.
Yeah.
What kind of advice or what would you tell somebody that feels like they don't have any strength in them to make a step in that direction, but even though they feel like they know they need to, but like what would you say to that person that doesn't feel like they have it in them?
Mm-hmm. I would say go get the strength from other people who are doing it. So get into the rooms of AA, CA, NA, Dharma recovery, smart recovery, treatment centers, anything, and get in the rooms where you see it working for people and grab their strength, because you walk into a room full of recovering addicts and you will be swept up and you will be helped whether you're ready or not. Mm-hmm. And to just humble yourself and say like, is what I'm doing working for me? And really like being honest with yourself that you don't have to keep going in that direction, because there's this whole other life that waits for us on the other side, and it's better than anyone could ever imagine. And there's so many free resources. I know that I'm so privileged, and privilege comes up a lot when I share my story too, of like my sentences and things like that. And I do recognize that there are a lot of free resources out there too. Like if you go, and I can give you a list of places, but there's lists of free resources. Meetings are all free. Just get in the room. Mm-hmm. Even if you're high today, go get in a room and watch how it's working for other people.
Yeah. That's amazing. Like, I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I know Stephanie, like, and I've known your story, like, I haven't known all the details of it. I've known bits and pieces of it, and it has affected me. But to, like, even hear, like, today, like, more details of it, like, it's I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't even have real words for it, because it's like, you're right. It's heartbreaking, but it's also like so empowering and so beautiful at the same time. Yeah. You know, and it's like the worst and the best all in one, because you chose in a moment that changed your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, even when I sit here and I'm like, am I really sick? This was my life? Like, it really does not feel like it was my life. But again, it was just the disease of addiction turns you into a completely different person. And so really it is like 2 lives. Yeah. It's like I've lived 3, right? Yeah. Before, during, and after. And it's wild. And I share it so openly and stuff just because it's like the reality of it. This world is riddled with addiction, and to kind of show the stigma too, right? Because if anyone just were to log on and see us 3 sitting together, their first guess is not going to be, oh, they're talking about heroin. Yeah. Right. They're going to be like, they're talking about shoes or Housewives. Yeah. Or, you know what I mean?
And that's what I said that's like so beautiful about you when you walked in. I'm like, I would have never, like looking at you, I would never know, because unfortunately the people in my life, you can see it on them, because they haven't unfortunately been able to get over the disease as much as they tried. And I love when you said that you believe wholeheartedly that people want to get over it. Because I've unfortunately lost a lot of people in my life. Actually, one of my best friends from high school died sitting on the toilet when he shot up. Like he was sitting on the toilet, shot up and died. And then, you know, the history with my personal family members, like, now I saw a squirrel, because that's why I'm like getting just teary-eyed, because it's like you just don't know what addiction looks like. It's not what people think. And always, you know, it's not just like last night we went to a comedy club, and it's not just Tent City. Right. It's like moms, fathers, children's,
Oh, yeah.
doctors, lawyers.
Yep. I know working in the treatment field now, I'm like, okay, doctors, nurses, pilots, lawyers, and people are like,
Don't say
when they
pilots.
hear that, I know. When they hear that, they're just like, what? No. And I'm like, yeah, you think anyone's immune to this?
I
No
mean,
one's
don't
immune
say
to
pilots
this.
because I'm already scared to fly,
Oh.
and I fly a lot.
Okay, well, if they ever got caught flying drunk, they would never be able to fly again.
Okay,
and
good.
The pilots I treat and that are in my groups are the best people ever. Like, if you want anyone flying your plane, it's someone in recovery.
Okay.
It's not someone that partied the night before and made it on time. You want the recovery people. Because recovery people are the best people.
They are.
Not just because I am one. I mean, partly, but
Yeah, but I just
They are
think,
pretty amazing.
Like,
thank you.
I honestly, it's just so beautiful because you went through all of that, but you eventually aligned with like your higher self.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you were supposed to go through all of that. Maybe that was your mission here on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love the spiritual side of it so much because that's what I'm trying to get more into as well. And I just get the goosebumps and RT. Now I get RT when I get the goosebumps. It's so weird. But like when you're talking, I'm
She
just
has
like,
brand new boobs.
yeah, I just got,
I'm activating them.
yeah, I just got a breast lift, and ever since, it's like every time I feel like goosebumps or something, I'm like, oh.
Your higher power lives in your
in my tits. Yeah. No, it's so beautiful, and thank you so much for taking the time to share.
Yeah, I don't know if I went like super. Oh yeah,
No,
I can talk
that was
a
amazing.
long time. So
Yeah, and I'm sure you could tell us stories that would like absolutely just like blow minds, right? But I think the purpose is that you did it and you're helping people, and even if it's not addiction, just showing like overcoming and being connecting to higher power and finding your strength
yeah,
and fixing your inner child where all
Right.
the trauma started.
yep.
And you broke a cycle. Mm-hmm. Do you have kids?
No,
She has dog babies.
Dog babies.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I like, my point would be like, I bet if you did have kids, like you broke that cycle for them.
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
So
well, and
future
that's what you're
generations,
doing
yeah.
too, right?
Yeah. So
Because whether it's drugs and alcohol were just the symptom of something bigger going on, right? Mm-hmm. And so it is the trauma. Like, right? They say like weed is the gateway drug. I'm like, trauma is.
it's trauma.
Right.
Trauma is,
Right.
and it just because my brain, we chose similar, coping mechanisms like with drinking or things like that. But I didn't know my brain would do what it did with it,
Right.
where then it becomes the disease of addiction.
Yeah.
So
We've kind of talked about seeing this new therapist, and he likes to peel back the layers of like, okay, what's underneath that? Why did you feel like you needed to cope? Like, what emotions were you feeling that you felt like you couldn't handle? And he said something. He said we go through about 200 emotions every single day, and when we deal with them as they come up, it quickly goes away. He said it's like if you're thirsty, like, and you don't drink anything for 24 hours, what happens? Like that feeling, your body's still thirsty, right? It wants you to do one thing, just take a sip of water. That's it. So you go 2 days and you don't drink anything. And then what does your body do? You probably have more symptoms like headache. You might feel like you're dizzy or, all of these different symptoms are coming up because you're not dealing with the one thing it wants you to do. By the third day, you could die from it, right?
Yeah. And it's
So-
like, take the damn sip.
Yeah, like just
Yeah.
just handle it. So he was saying, if we deal with our emotions as they come up, the good and the bad, it puts them, it subsides it. And if we don't, those compound into the next day, and then into the next day. And then all of a sudden you're feeling so overwhelmed and you don't know how to handle these emotions. And so you grab whatever will make it go away, whatever that is for you. Maybe it's, I don't know, porn addiction or any type of.
Welcome to Utah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's so many forms of addiction.
Yeah, there really are.
Yeah.
There really are. So,
I have a really bad relationship with money.
with money.
I shop.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
my triggers, like when emotions are coming up, I get online. Just
Yeah. So something
Buy,
that's
buy,
helpful
buy,
to
buy, buy.
practicing delayed gratification, add to cart, but don't check out.
Don't check out.
Go back the next day. 8 times out of 10, you'll be like, why? Why did I think I wanted this?
Well, and
I'm gonna
sometimes that
start
is
trying
true
that.
because sometimes I do feel like I shopped and I forget I had the cart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because isn't most of it just like you ordered it and then you're kind of tracking it? And then, because I just did that and I got something and I just throw it in my office and like stupid things here now. I don't even care. But it's like the finding it, checking out, hitting checkout, tracking it, knowing it's coming. And then I'm just like, who cares? So that's like what I'm working on right now is the shopping thing.
Yeah.
I'm easily influenced. I see anything on like TikTok, Instagram. I'm like, I need that too.
Yep.
And I need to be like, bitch, you're 36, you're not 22. You don't need all these things that the young kids are doing. But I'm 22 at heart.
Yeah. I think we all are.
Yeah, forever 22.
But do you want to quickly, we'll in the description of the podcast, put all of your information, any resources you want to share, we'll list in there. But where can people find you? Like, let us know where
So
people
my
can find you.
Instagram and TikTok is where I'm like the most active, and it's just at I am Stephanie Noble. And then I'll give like resources for treatment and things like that, as well as meetings and stuff like that. And then my journal company is Noble Paper Company. And it's so funny you just said you align to your higher self. That's what this whole journal is.
Yeah, I cannot wait to open that and look at it. Thank you so much.
I think you'll love it.
Yes.
I think you will too.
Thank you.
So thank you guys for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for coming. You are such a badass.
Thank you. I agree.
She really is.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of her. I say it all the time, but
Thank
I
you.
am. And I get to be related to you.
I know. I get to be related to you. It's amazing. When I first heard she was going to be on Housewives with you, I told Grandma, I was like, Connie's going to be on TV. And she was like, what is she doing? And I was like, I don't know yet, so I'm not going to tell her.
Yeah, you never know how that one's going to go with Housewives. It could be a good thing, a bad thing. You never know.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've lived most of my traumas on the TV, so.
I know. But you're bringing awareness to things, too, that people don't like to talk about. And I'm sure I can't imagine what it's like for you to get like all the hate you do from it, but just keep talking about it, because the ones who resonate and the ones who have been on similar journeys, I'm like, ooh. Just like the first season when you and your dad were sharing, I'm like, thank you. Someone's actually bringing this to light. And then the recent ones of the healing journey, like people are going to be judgmental assholes, but it just means they're still sleepwalking.
Well, and exactly. And it's so bizarre that, because season 1, I stayed sober with my dad. Like I wasn't like drinking as much or like, because I was supporting him and he was living in my home.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to do this with you. Like, I'm not going to tempt you, because at that time, he wasn't strong enough to be around it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like, alcohol was a whole nother, he just replaced it with alcohol.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell his story. We can cut this part. But watching myself season 3, when I was drunk and emotional, I was like, holy shit, alcohol is not the coping mechanism for trauma.
No.
Nope. So that's when I actually really delved into like therapy and working on it that way instead of just numbing.
Oh, yeah. It's like pouring gasoline on the fire when you're going through something big and you drink at it. Like when I went through Anthony's death and I chose to drink at it, and then it just prolongs it. And then when
it
you
just
get
puts it
sober,
on pause. It waits for you.
Yeah.
The pain waits for you while you're numb.
You get sober and you're like, did that just happen? And it was almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that was 7 years
Well,
ago.
I watched my oldest sister and my dad struggle, so I never was tempted by drugs. I was never like, that was a hell no for me. Like, I wouldn't even take Xanax or like after surgery, I'd take the painkillers, then I'd do Advil. Okay, so it wasn't until I started like becoming a wino, like I discovered I really love wine. And then it was watching myself season 3, I was like, okay, we're using wine to numb.
Yeah.
Not just to enjoy dinner and having a date night.
Right.
It was like, oh, I'm like stuffing emotion so far down.
Yeah.
Right.
And the scary thing is it comes out.
Oh, yeah.
Worse.
And it comes out in ways that is so much more destructive and then just perpetuates more
I was
the
running
same.
around in lingerie, just like yelling at everyone.
Hey, I've been there. Just not on TV, so good for you.
But yeah, thank you. You're so beautiful. And
thank you,
We'll
guys.
have to go get lunch or dinner.
Yes.
Yes.
I know. We have a really great vegan place she took me to that was...
It's so good.
Yeah.
Are you vegan now?
Yes.
She's vegan. She's like so healthy on so many levels. Like you're talking about mindfulness, like you're checking all the boxes, like, I don't know, like mind, body, spirit, all of it. And you keep yourself in check. And when I see you on like TikTok or on social media or whatever, I'm like, oh, there's my little reminder. Okay, Connie, where are we today? You know? No,
well,
but
my life depends on it.
Yeah.
So it's different. It's done in a way where, again, I don't want my spiritual awakening to be for nothing. I don't want to dishonor that moment because I feel so grateful. But also, like, if I don't keep my shit in check, my outcome could be death. It could be relapse and death. And so not going there. So it's, I kind of have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
I love
get
being
to.
a part of it, and I love that you're such an inspiration to me, not only me, but so many people and everybody.
Oh, thank you.
Everyone around you. So I just love
feel
you.
so special.
I
Thank
do.
you,
I just
guys.
love you, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I love you.
Thank you to everyone for following along and listening and subscribing. If you haven't yet, please share with your friends and family. We appreciate your love and support. And we would love for Stephanie's message to get out there and help so many people. And just as a reminder, be you, stay wild.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.